Hey, so I'm Christopher McClure, and welcome to the Shift Show. And I'm here with Jacob Graham today, and we're talking about well, the title of our vlog is "We Need to Talk." And the idea here is how is dialogue a transformative experience, and how does it guide us in the evolution of our species? So Jacob, you and sort of this the subtitle of this is the outspoken unvaccinated. Um, so just to be clear, both Jacob and I, Jacob's entire family, and and I are unvaccinated, and we feel like talking amongst ourselves, the people who are unvaccinated, talking is actually a very important element in getting through this thing, this pandemic that we're in.
Yes.
And Jacob actually is kind of on the front line. He is just getting over COVID himself, and his family likewise. And so he's got to put um, his beliefs to the test, so to speak. You want to say any more about that, Jacob?
No, I think it's interesting. We thought about this talk, and thank you again for having me on, actually. But yes, we thought about this talk prior to me actually catching this disease. So you would think that I might come out with a different outcome,
Mm-hmm.
but um, you can say what you will. Maybe I was fortunate. Maybe it's because of the prophylactics that I used and the measurements that we have taken to prepare for this moment that has helped us really minimize the outcome. I mean, from my kids, obviously they didn't anything other than uh, they had some colds. Lasted for 3 days for my two kids. My youngest daughter had no symptoms, no nothing. And in our household, we didn't put in any measurements. We had decided that if anybody gets sick, we're in this together. We're not going to put someone in a room and isolate them. We're gonna live together.
Uh-huh.
Uh, um,
And just to be
so
clear, the prophylactic you're talking about, which is what you and your wife took, is
is ivermectin,
yeah, okay.
which is kind of becoming the forbidden fruit and definitely becoming one of these. Uh, I feel like they're full on campaigns to slander this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which of course is part of this conversation that we have of it always raises the question, why is
Why
it so important,
why is it being slandered?
right? And why is it so important for wherever, if it's not because they're not coming out and saying, hey, don't take this is absolutely deadly to you. They're using funny strategies like saying, hey, don't, not a horse, you're not a cow, don't take ivermectin, trying to make it sound like it's a horse pill.
Uh-huh.
Granted, yes, this medicine has been used to treat animals, but that it's not what it's used for. So it just makes you go question why we're being, or why they, I should say, are being disingenuous. That so it just raises more doubt rather than
Yeah.
giving more strength in why I should go and say, absolutely, give me this vaccine when we have to not be honest.
Well,
So
for me, the medical industry's positioning on ivermectin and hydrochloroquine is so it's so telling. It's like it's like if they were genuinely interested in the health and the safety of people, they would not have these this positioning. And the fact that they do is just what that tells me is that, okay, your motives have just become clear. You are not this pandemic, and whatever, whatever the medical industry and, the world governments and the not so obvious establishment is doing regarding it's their motives are not pure. They're not to help people. Something else is going on. And so,
And that's what it lays out, right?
yeah.
When you play these games, when no at no point of time have you heard the CDC suggest you take large doses of vitamin D. But you've had the head of NIH, Dr. Fauci, who has outspokenly before said that he himself takes 5,000 units of vitamin D every day. But that we'll never get that as
Mhm.
a story. And I don't, again, to me, just always just makes me say, why?
Yeah.
Why are you not giving me
Yep.
the full picture, the information? Help me.
Yeah.
And of course, I might go completely off the subject here, but it's this idea of you know informed consent. And even if you go get the vaccine, you get this informed consent form that you have to fill out, but it doesn't have all the information on it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah. Especially, regarding the side effects and, the vascular, effect that, yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
and hey, there might not be any, but the less, or the more I see that somebody's not being genuine, the more I become hesitant.
Yeah, and the more we tend to read in to what they're doing, the more it's like by their positioning on these two, on ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, it opens the door to conspiracy theories.
Oh, absolutely.
People are so kind of like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory, but it's like this there it's the,
No, you open the door
yeah,
for it
yeah, it's like,
because you
so what?
you
And
make
the
me go, why?
and the only, it's like, if I think about it, well, okay, so there's greed, right? That could be a reason, so that they don't want to have available anything that doesn't make them a lot of money.
Right.
But then, the other reason is even more sinister, which is control.
Mhm.
That there's actually people who are trying to take over, create a world whatever,
Right.
government, so that this is
Actually,
the
the health
reason.
minister in Australia just said that, by the way, very recently. She said, we will see how testing will be done under the New World Order.
Wow.
Yeah.
The new world order. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I
Yes.
mean, say what you will, but I mean, of course, as we say here, the more my government that is supposedly by me for me is lying to me, or not being, let me not call it lies. The less honest and forthright you are, the more I'm going to distrust you. The
Yeah.
more it opens room for my brain to say, well, why, and then create,
Uh-huh.
uh, whether it's my own mind that takes me to other places and
Yeah.
curiosities. I think that's just natural, rather than if they came to me and say, hey, this is the story.
Yeah.
But by all means, go use these medicines off label. We don't care. They're pretty safe. By all means, give them a
Yeah.
try. But we think that you are doing, I think you're being reckless because they have not been proven.
Yeah.
Isn't that a better approach? That's an adult approach.
Yeah. Well, if you have pure motives, then that's a good approach. But you know, so I mean, it just
Well,
keeps
right.
coming back that it's just becoming obvious how their motives are not pure. And the way that we came to this kind of discussion about needing to talk is because because of the mandates and because the reintroduction of isolation and divisiveness. Basically, we're going back. It seems like we're going back into lockdown mode, and what that is that we're separating. People get separated. You know, just the act of wearing a mask creates divisiveness. It's like you can't see
Absolutely.
a person's face. You can't tell if they're friendly, if they're friend or foe. And so what it does is it creates, it shuts down conversation, shuts down dialogue.
Oh, we certainly felt that. I mean, certainly the mask, I feel we certainly, because of the signal it sends, I think, into your subconsciousness is fear, right? I'm wearing this because you're dangerous. So
That's
again,
right. That's
that
right.
automatically makes you the enemy. I'm not going to talk to you.
That's right. It's like the mask situation sets up the belief that you are a threat to me.
Right,
And then
right.
it also creates like a double threat. And oh, you know more altruistic people are, oh, and I'm a threat to you. But it's like it's basically where we should not be coming together.
Right.
And what I was just thinking about this morning, and it's like, we talked a little bit about how we're moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age is more about collaboration and true democracy, and how the pandemic is like this. It's like the nemesis of moving into the Aquarian age. I mean, the motives to begin with are about domination and control, as far as I can tell. But the
Right.
very, the very thing that we need to be doing more of in this time, which is coming together and collaborating, it's actually thwarting that, that situation.
Well, I think that's really obvious out there right now that, you look at this key word through the whole pandemic has been, science, and especially follow the science.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
in my mind, and I think in most real scientists' mind, I think science is questioning, right?
Hmm.
Isn't that the basic principle of science? Is let's question this.
It's questioning, and it's
Uh,
also it's also testing.
right.
Right.
But it starts with a question.
Yeah.
You can't test something if you don't question it.
Right.
You got to say, why is this? Well,
Mhm.
here I hypothesize that
Yeah.
this is why. Let me go test it, right?
Yeah.
But if you can no longer question, then it's not science.
That's right.
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 So when they say follow the science, and I say, well, show me the science. Well, it's clear. Well, no. And that I believe, even that the word science became so divisive through this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
where,
I mean,
science, again, it's about dialogue. That's what science is.
right, right.
Without it, then, I think of the old boys, I got thrown out of the scientific communities because they try to convince somebody that first, the earth wasn't flat. Second, the universe didn't rotate around the earth.
Hmm.
Again, yes, it took a while for these guys, but real science wasn't when this establishment says, no, you're wrong, right? but all through history, we have dealt with that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we're coming up against the same battles where the scientific community doesn't allow you to be scientific.
Well, the science has become the new religion.
Right.
Science was the counteraction against the unfounded premises of a lot of religion, right?
Yes.
But now science has become has become the same. They've become what they were fighting against,
Right.
and which is that is the natural course of domination, and that's what happens. You have a nation that comes up fighting, like the United States fighting against the domination of England, and now we are that we've become that which we were fighting against.
And maybe we become the next empire that falls divided. I don't know. Hopefully
Well,
not.
and yeah, and that's a whole other topic about how
Yes, it is for sure. For sure.
civilizations do have like lifespans, and
Yes.
we're actually past the end of our lifespan. We're, you know, if you look at history and you track, the lifespan of civilization of powers, we are past the lifespan. But just to be clear, I think what we're talking about free speech, and so we're talking about truth, but we're also talking about human rights. The right to choose. The right to speak and have dialogue, and then the right to make our own decisions. And both of those are being, the dialogues being censored, and the right to choose is being it's you know it's running underground because of mandates. You come, it's like we have to, a healthy society, a healthy person has options. They have choices, and then they choose those choices. And when the choices get eliminated, and something comes in, a dominating force comes in and says, this is the only way, that's just very dangerous. It's very unhealthy. It's and that that is what that's what we're I think that's what we're speaking for, us, the outspoken unvaccinated. We're speaking for that healthy choices, and that
Oh, absolutely.
that ivermectin is a choice, and hydrochloroquine is a choice, and there's other alternatives. Herbs are a choice, and there's other things, that
Vitamins. I mean, yeah.
yeah, and they're not being recognized, and that's
Well,
where
even to the fact that, and as I think I mentioned, I don't mention it here, but you know, plenty of studies have shown that natural immunity, which I think I just managed to get a good dose of,
Mhm.
is will far outlast this shot.
Right,
Now, where, but as we get mandates, and if I had a federal job or whatever it is, that is not recognized at the moment.
yeah. No, you're absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that into the list of options. Natural immunity, it's like sort of on the top of the list there. Um,
It should be on top of the
yeah,
list.
yeah, and it's completely being thwarted by masks,
Yes.
and by the vaccine. The vaccine. I would say, and many other people would say, that it's actually creating the variants. And
We will that will continue, I think, to expand. Um, I mean, that idea. I certainly think we'll hear more of that. But again, that's dangerous information, so you can't be talking about
right.
it. Right.
Yeah. So,
So
but we're talking about it here because we believe that, because we believe talking is it's a necessity, it's a right, and let's look at, let's look at the, from a human developmental standpoint, the value of dialogue. And when I'm using the word dialogue now, I'm using it in a more kind of all-inclusive sense, including like the mirroring that happens when uh, when an infant's looking into the face of its mother or its father or any human being, you know, that there is there's a development that's happening there, of a subjective consciousness becoming objective. And when that, and it's there's been studies, that show when that is missing, that that human being, that young human being, grows up, they grow up extremely, thwarted. They actually, I don't know I should research, to get the exact results, but they basically are not human. They um, and that's what's happening. There's I was a Montessori teacher, and she talked about sensitive periods, and obviously, there's a sensitive period, very sensitive period for that, which is very young. And but there's higher octaves of those sensitive periods. And I think, when, so you were talking about how when children are, say, in preschool and they're forced to wear masks, how they're being robbed of their developmental, track that's essential to them becoming healthy human beings, emotionally, psychologically.
Yeah, no, I think there's, again, I mean, it's such a, for some reason, the mask, right, has become a very heated topic. But yeah, but putting a mask over someone's face, or covering their expression, certainly, I mean, that's a huge part of how we communicate, especially as young people, and learn how. I mean, I grew up with a lot of dogs, and I always say dogs have this inability to understand, it's the humans' emotions.
Mm.
And I think it's a little bit of energy, but I also think it's expression. We still rely on it all the time, right? It's amazing what happens when you see somebody smile. Very often you end up smiling.
Hmm.
But if you're in a room full of people that are very angry, I mean, that's the group think that happens, right? You can get swallowed up in that. So without that, I think without a, you know, that idea that, hey, you can tell from my eyes, sure, but there's a reason why we have a lot of muscles in our face.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you got to look pretty close into somebody's eyes to tell exactly what's going on with them. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and then if you got a mask on, that already sets up like, all right, don't come close to me. You know,
As we
and
said earlier, yeah. I mean
then
that
and then you actually can't get close enough to actually see clearly what's going on in their eyes, and
right.
at least
No,
at
so I
least
think it certainly, and I think many people agree that that has that developmental challenges in doing that. I mean, I know that there are kids that gladly put on their mask, but I almost guarantee you there's no kid out there that really enjoys it.
Mhm,
But if you've been told that it keeps you safe, yes, they will put it on. But
mhm,
that's for another reason. It's not because they enjoy wearing it. It's because they believe that they are being protected. I mean, it's funny. My kids right now, they won't go ride a bike without a helmet. They don't feel comfortable.
mhm.
When I was their age, I would never ride a bike with a helmet,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's funny. I ski a lot, and we've talked about that, but I always ski with a helmet now. But I didn't grow up skiing with a helmet.
Uh-huh.
The reason why I say that, it something happens here and it's a taught behavior. But I think some that taught me that wearing this, you know, head shield will keep me safe from falling off my bike. I get it. And of course it does. Uh, but I think the argument that people say, well, kids don't mind wearing those masks is because they've been told that that mask is going to keep them from catching this horrible disease that's moving around.
Well, it
That is
becomes
just
it becomes a rule, and it's like, we the adults are the authority, and we're passing
right.
down the rules.
They trust us, right? Yeah.
Right, they trust us. But as above, as below, so above, or as above, so below. So now we have the authorities making the rules,
Mhm.
but we're not kids. We're waking up into our adulthood as people and as a society. I think that's actually a really important point. Is that there's a book I'm reading. I think I've mentioned this before to you, Jacob. It's called Radical Regeneration. It's by Andrew Harvey and Carolyn Baker, and they talk about that the pandemic and everything else that's at global warming. It's all part of this collective rites of passage, and we as a species, we are adolescents. We do not really own our responsibility for who we are, what we can, and the effect that we have, the impact that we have on our world, our power. We don't own that. We're just reckless kids, you know, and this, and in you look at rites of passage in traditional societies, they are they're not cakewalks, and in fact there's some people, that it's usually adolescents, so there's some teenagers that there are life and death situations in these rites of passages, and some don't make it.
Right.
And that might be true of us as a collective. We might not make it, but we are going through that right now, and part of becoming mature adults is realizing our connectivity as a species. That we've it's been so emphasized, especially in the West, about individualism, and that's all. It's really, I am totally an individual, and I take pride in my innovation, and but if I lose my connectivity with the rest of humanity, then there's something wrong. It's like there's a piece that's missing in that. And so here we are, having to establish that under adversity. In other words, the thing that should be happening the most right now, we're actually being thwarted in doing. But that is the way things, that's the way change happens, is that, when a force comes into limit, and then the change agent has to, it has to become very creative in order to figure out how to do that, and we learn more than we would have learned if it was just easy, and we learn it more thoroughly. So I
I
I
can believe
believe.
that. I mean, I always believe that it is, challenges that we grow from. So, the easy stuff, we become fat and lazy. But
So what, one of the things that we're having to learn is tolerance. It's with, part of what's being created, the atmosphere that's being created by censorship and isolation and divisiveness, is polarization.
right,
People responding to those things with fear, and then strategies to protect themselves, and which you create a mind, a worldview based on your fear, and that becomes sort of cemented in. And then when somebody else has figured out a different way, it's like it becomes a contention. And so polarization is really easy right now, and but the antidote is tolerance. And so it's like, how do we do that tolerance thing? And you were mentioning verbal basketball
Right.
as one way of, so say, could you say more about that, where that came from? And
Well, I just, long time ago, listened to a hip hop band called Jurassic 5, and I feel like that's where I picked it up from. But I've used it a long time because I love that idea that if you have a thought, I can bounce it around by myself, but it doesn't really formulate well. Maybe I have this, if I use this basketball analogy, I want to go try to create some cool alley oop or whatever it is. But if I have a partner I can work with, I might be able to make it cool. Or somebody can say, well, that's just dumb. So I think it's always important that we do play that verbal basketball, that we can exchange of ideas. Again, going back to dialogue, that as a people, especially during when they're forced to try to separate us, that we need more than ever to come out and be honest, speak truthfully, don't be afraid, speak with honesty, speak your truth, but don't expect that truth to be accepted.
yeah,
But be open, as you say, for a tolerance for someone else so that we can have that exchange, that
and,
we can
and
formulate together.
and collaboration. I think what it's leading to is
Right.
collaboration, and that is the key word of the Aquarian age is collaboration. And
Collaboration, right.
personally, I'm in I'm in a band with my wife, and I've been playing music more dedicatedly, for longer than she. And so in our interaction, there was a certain attitude that I had, which was, well, I know better. I'm just more expert at this. You should listen to me. You should, when I say, this is a better way to do it, you should just, take my word for it and do it. And um, but she is not that kind of person. She's like very um, uh, stubborn about about her own creativity, and how it's
Strong-willed.
strong-willed, yeah, strong-willed and protective of her own
Right.
creativity, and of especially and of the creativity of others, especially other women, because women have, there's just a strong track record of women being dominated by men, and just, and so she's trying to break out of that. So I mean, there was a painful kind of like shift that happened in me, which on one level I already believed in collaboration. I just didn't believe it down to the level of it, of it, where it really made a difference. That if you're doing something with somebody, and you've already said, yeah, we're going to do this together, and you get like to a certain stage of the product, the project moves to, and I say, oh yeah, this is great, we got it here, and but the other person saying, no, it's not, I don't, you know it's not done. If that's the case, it's not done. It isn't done until both people say, I like this. This is good. We did good. And the more people you add in, so we were doing that. My wife and I, Sarah and I, together, and then we brought in a drummer, and the drummer is actually pretty strong willed also, and it was actually right off the bat. We had the name the Divine Tribe, right? And but our drummer is kind of theistically wounded. He kind of grew up playing music in like gospel bands, and he's kind of turned off to the way religion can become an authority, and he said, I don't really like that name. And so we had to drop the name, and then we had to go through this like 2 month process of finding a name that we all felt good about. And it was difficult, because it's like, wow, here's a great name, and it's like, yeah, yeah, it's okay, but it's like, and just going, and I mean, it built up a muscle to the point where this muscle is like, it's still firing. It's like we can't help it now, but we're constantly coming up with new names for bands, even though we already found a name for our band, which is Radiant Deep. That's what we came to. That we all agree on Radiant Deep. But that so this it's a principle of collaboration. I learned it on a deep level. We're all learning it on a deep level in the band. I think we're all learning it in I think humanity is having to learn this on a deep level, and I'm just seeing it coming
I hope
out
you're right.
all over the place. Even people who are, you would that they consider, or you would consider them sort of like new age, or just like free thinkers, or very egalitarian. Under the surface, there's these places where, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not the way I want to. It's like, and there's just that, the this principle of collaboration hasn't integrated deeply enough. So anyway, I think that's where we're going. With this whole idea of we need to talk. It's about collaboration, and truly where it's going to. It's like our founding fathers proposed. They were like way ahead of their time. There was,
Yes.
I mean, people talk about, that actually there's this spiritual, this kind of he's actually like an embodiment of a certain archangel. His name is Saint Germain. There's people who think he was actually part of the founding fathers. So there was like this, some truly like advanced thinking going on then. But they created a structure, our Constitution, and they were half of them were slave owners.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like they couldn't even you know um, make happen what they were proposing.
No, but
But
they were very forward looking. So
yeah. So
they
now
were,
it's like, now it's our mission, so to speak, to actually put a true democracy into practice. And I think what that means is collaboration, and being able to truly embody that inside and out.
well, I certainly hope so. I mean, I think that's the savior. If we can, if we if we can't, then as you know, as actually one of the founding fathers said, if freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter.
Yep.
So,
uh,
so in other words, again, this freedom of speech is more than it is truly a right of humanity. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to speak, and you have to be allowed to speak. Whether people like it or not, I don't really care. But through that, hopefully, we can also be, as you say, we got to be a bit humble. We got to also be, uh, your word was, but I can't think of it anyway, that it becomes collaboration, not not me telling you.
Yeah.
Because freedom of
I'll,
speech is one thing. That doesn't mean that I demand something from you. That is just that I'm expressing my feelings or my beliefs, and that
right, and
together
there's
we
mutual
respect.
respect. Yeah, there's a practice called nonviolent communication. It's been around for decades,
Yep.
um, um, and it actually is a an exquisite formula for how to do what we're talking about well. For how to mirror and validate. And how to present your own um, point of view in a way that's disarming, that invites people
Right.
in and is not demanding. It becomes a request, and it leaves people choice, which is the other thing that we were talking about. The freedom, freedom of speech is like it's good, but if everybody is just freely speaking and nobody's respecting each other's
Right.
viewpoint, then that's not that doesn't
Well, it's meaningless.
it's meaning yeah it doesn't
Yeah.
get us where we need to go. So
No.
yeah, I think I believe that we are we have the opportunity to create a true democracy, and the question is, uh, do will we realize the necessity in this time, and not be trying to get back to the normal that we came out of, and realize that there's
Right.
it's changing, it's shifting, and it's our survival. It's like we won't be if we don't come together as a species, we won't be able to survive, and that's.
No, absolutely not. But I think it starts with first of all, do not be afraid, but speak honestly. Don't, because that's the I think that's what kind of brought up this point originally about we need to talk, or the what you call it, the outspoken unvaccinated.
All right.
And it's not necessarily to be controversial. It's just to say, hey, there are more than one way. Let's talk and let's figure this out.
Right.
Uh, and I feel there are many people right now that are quietly either accepting, hey, I'm going to get this vaccine just because pressures. So really through coercion, some certainly take it because they feel good about it. That's fine. But you shouldn't feel coerced
Hmm.
in anything. A
And if
true
you
dialogue should help you make informed decisions, and together we can then coexist, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you go along with the overriding media, you might think that most of the world is vaccinated, and but when you actually start talking and you say, yeah, I'm not vaccinated, and I don't believe in it, and then somebody well, yeah, I'm the same way. It's like you realize there's more people wanting these other choices, these alternatives. And a healthy society embraces those other options. That's the
Well,
goal.
choices. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's that's I think that's what we're going to, is a healthy, you know, democracy where people have choices, and the right to speak about them, and the
Well,
right,
boy,
and
do I
and
hope you're right.
well, if yeah, I mean, for me, it's that's the principle that I believe in, and
Oh, well,
whether
true.
and
Well, me
whether
too.
whether I will see that in my own lifetime, I don't know, but I will live and die, standing with that principle, because I believe it's the the mission of humanity is to become a true collective, not losing our individuality, so that, but we're actually operating. We become, it's like you have more. like when if there's a certain like issue going on in society, and you got a bunch of groups that are each speaking, advocating that or speaking out against it. When they form together into one group, they have greater impact, and that's what's it's like we as humanity have to become unified so that we find our place in the bigger scheme of things. We become an
Absolutely right. No,
organ. We become an organ in the body of the universe, and so to speak.
I still think we suffer from the a human condition though, which is I come first. But
Well,
hopefully
yeah,
we can get beyond that conscience. Yes.
yeah. So how do we not give that up? How do we still remain human, an individual, and and expand to the whole universe at the same time? How do we do that? I believe that is our heritage, and there's if we point ourselves in that direction, we will get there.
No, I think you're absolutely right in that. But I think how we do that is a much bigger question.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah. But I
but
think,
it certainly starts
but it's
with
you're
what
right.
you're saying. It's a principle, it's a belief, and it's standing by that and never be afraid to speak of that
Yeah.
and believe in it.
I can't help but bring in here the when we were first talking about this, you cited the V for Vengeance movie, right? Is that the name of
V
it?
for Vendetta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
V
V
for
for Vendetta.
Vendetta, and
Yeah.
I saw that many many years ago, and I looked at the trailer, and the phrase was, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
Should
the
fear their
people,
people. Yes.
which is totally true. That we have the numbers. We have the numbers.
Yes.
There are a lot more of us, and so we have the power of numbers, and so and it's rightful that we should be ruling ourselves,
Yes.
or that the people who are in position, who are governors, should be should be in service to our
To
to
our
what
desires
yeah
or
to,
our
to what
needs.
we want.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not telling me what I want, but actually fulfill what we want. Yes. Whereas certainly that is a whole nother discussion too. But I feel very often that our public servants have stepped away from that role a long time ago. So
All right. Well, I think we've gone about an hour, and
yep.
it kind of it seems like there's like all kinds of little veins that go out from this topic, and we could probably spend a long time talking about all those. But
Yes.
I think we've probably said enough for now. Anything you want to kind of conclude with?
No, I just keep saying that as the topic of our talk is we need to talk, and that means we all need to talk. And whether that is, I'm not saying that my position on the vaccine or whatever is the correct one. I'm just saying this is my
Right.
position. Anyone
Yeah.
who is willing to talk to me, I'm willing to listen.
Hmm.
But let's be respectful
Yeah.
and let's leave people with these options, and don't always don't be fooled by what things are being told to you. But
Right.
please use your intellect, collect your data, form your opinions, however you want. That's fine. I will respect that, but try not to just regurgitate that. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we haven't really talked about, that I just want to kind of throw in the mix here at the end, is don't be afraid. This is my suggestion to people. Don't be afraid to go beyond your own comfort. I mean,
No, I agree. I think
that's
that's
the
where it's at.
that's the handle that the powers that be have on us, is that
Yep.
well, it's going to be uncomfortable for you if you don't do if you don't do this. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'd rather take comfort in truth than in a false sense of stability.
Right.
Yeah.
But that also comes to, don't be afraid to step beyond your comfort on any subject. It's okay. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be presented in an offensive way. But if it's an honest curiosity, as long as it comes from an honest place, please, by all
Yeah.
means, people, let's
Yeah.
talk.
And it's like the phrase you introduced, verbal basketball. I mean, it's like we're playing a game. We're still in the game, even though
Right.
we're like in a sense, like trying to make baskets and score and stuff like that. We're playing this game together.
Yes.
So I just want to say for people listening that there's also there's a song that I wrote that kind of goes along with this, and there's a chart, and I'll post those things below. And there's actually a blog. I did a blog. It's gonna be coming out. Same ideas, and so anyway, I'll post those things below, and hopefully this was an inspiration and for people and encouragement to to be who they are, to be all of who you are, and to think and feel what you do, and to share it. To share it with you might have to be careful about finding the right people to share it with, but to share it, because when we do share it, it's like those infants who need that mirroring. We need that mirroring, that we need that reflection from others in order to be healthy psychologically, physically, and emotionally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's important to let some of that out to stay healthy. So
All right. Well, that's it for now.
always a pleasure, Christopher.
Pleasure. Yes.